right, well, I think we can go ahead and begin. Welcome, everyone. Yes, I want to encourage everyone to share your name and your faith tradition or the church that you're joining us from, the place where you're joining us from. You can put that in the chat. And I want to thank everyone for joining this webinar and showing your support for the Western Apache sacred land of Chi'chil Bildagoteel or Oak Flat, which is located in southeastern Arizona. Thank you for recording this, Madison. Just letting everybody know we'll be recording this and we'll be sharing out the recording as soon as we can. My name is Kirsten DeMello, and I am the Climate Advocacy and Education Coordinator for Mennonite Central Committee. I am living on unceded Piscataway land on what is known as Washington, D.C. I want to give a big thank you to Creation Justice Ministries for hosting this webinar and to the many co-sponsors, including Church of the Brethren, American Baptist Church USA, United Church of Christ, Presbyterian Church USA, Alliance of Baptists, and the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship and Green Chalice. I want to especially appreciate Madison Mayhew of Creation Justice Ministries, the Policy and Advocacy Manager, for all of her work in making this webinar possible on short notice. And a big appreciation to Reverend Jennifer Hawks, Director of Advocacy for the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, for her willingness to bring this webinar into being. I would like us to begin with a moment of prayer. And I would like to invite Derek Weston, the Creation Justice Ministries Director of Theological Education and Formation, to ground us in prayer.
Thank you, Kirsten. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here, especially on such short notice. We appreciate your presence here for this important conversation. So with that, let us go to God in prayer. Creating God, who goes by so many names, who continues to create. We give you thanks for this world that you have made in love. We give you thanks for its richness, for its beauty, for its complexity, for its interwovenness, for its interconnectedness. And we give you thanks for the role that you have given us to play in the midst of this creation, this role to keep and till the garden, to serve and protect it, to love and observe it in all of the ways that we can. And God, we give you thanks for those who have protected the land of Oak Flats for centuries. Those who have cared for the land, who have tended to the land, who have made the land a part of their lives, who have made it a part of their rituals, who have given back to the land in the way that the land has given to them. Those who have overseen it, those who have loved it. We give you thanks for the struggle in which they find themselves, knowing that it is a struggle representing the struggle that we all who care about creation find ourselves in. The struggle against greed, the struggle against those who would argue that destruction of land is progress, the struggle against those who put profits over people. We recognize that this is a key moment for the people of Apache Stronghold, for the people who have tended Oak Flats, but also for all of us who join in solidarity. This is a key moment for us to say that we will not allow the earth to continue to be depleted, to be destroyed, to be commodified. This is a time for those of conscience and for those of faith to join our voices together and say no more. So give us the courage to do just that. Give us the strength to do just that. Be with us in the midst of this conversation. Guide our hearts, open our minds, and move our feet and our hands to do the work of serving the land that you have created. We ask all of this in the loving name of our Creator. Amen.
Thank you so much, Derek. We are honored to be joined today by the founders of Apache Stronghold and the leaders in the struggle to protect Oak Flat, Dr. Wensler Nosey Sr. and Vanessa Nosey. I will be inviting them, I'll be introducing them and inviting them to speak shortly. This is a critical moment, and we are all being called deeper into the struggle. You may have heard that on May 27th, the Supreme Court refused to hear the case Apache Stronghold brought before the court to protect Oak Flat and to protect the religious freedom of the Western Apache people. On June 16th, Oak Flat will be transferred to Resolution Copper unless there is intervention. And there are 2 pending court cases with injunctions filed in the federal court in Phoenix. The preliminary injunction hearings will happen on June 6th. That is this Friday. And we can all pray for the success of those injunctions, which would halt the land transfer until the court cases are decided. I imagine you are all joining this webinar with questions such as these. What does this mean for me and my congregation? How is God calling us to respond? What can I commit to doing now and in the future? I hope this time together will bring insights or affirmation of all that you're already doing. And we will also be offering action steps towards the end of our hour together. So we are so grateful to Vanessa and Dr. Nosey for taking time to be with us with so many pressures and invitations and responsibilities at this time, this precious time. Vanessa Nosey is a dedicated, loving mother of 4 children employed with the San Carlos Apache Tribe Historic Preservation and Archaeology Department. She is a matriarch in protection of her tribe's ancestral home and sacred places, and she's also a community organizer. Vanessa has been always active and present for her community and people. She holds positions such as the co-chair of Ba'ase Sacred Organization, a member of the Mountain of the Spirit Runners, a founding member and youth advisor of Native Youth Unite. She's an organizing member of Apache Stronghold and youth advisor of Native Youth Unite. And an organizing member of the Poor People's Campaign, National Call for Moral Revival. Vanessa has spoken before Congress and in a multitude of conferences, and she still humbly returns to the lands in which she was raised to continue to honor and protect the place and culture of home, that home being where her grandmother was born and raised. And by her example, Vanessa continues to be at service. Dr. Wensler Nosey Sr. was born on the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in Gila County in San Carlos, Arizona in 1959. He is a former chairman and councilman of the San Carlos Apache Tribe and a longtime opponent of Southeast Arizona Land Exchange. He is currently living at the Apache sacred site of Oak Flat to defend it from a land transfer to Resolution Copper. His organization, Apache Stronghold, in 2021 sued the federal government in an effort to halt the creation of North America's largest copper mine at Oak Flat, a sacred place and riparian oasis. We are putting some different links into the chat, and also Jennifer Hawks is putting into the chat some action steps that can be taken and wants you to know about. We will be sharing the link for Apache Stronghold, so you can go to their website and learn about this long struggle. And also there's a donate button there. You can support them monetarily too. That's also very important. And keep any questions that you have in mind. We'll have a question and answer session towards the end of this hour. So welcome, Dr. Nosy and Vanessa. We would like to turn this time over to the two of you to share with us.
Okay, is Vanessa, are you on your line?
Yeah, I'm
Vanessa?
here. I'm here.
Go ahead and get started. I'm gonna give me a cup of coffee. I just got in from Montana on a long drive. So go ahead and get it started, Ness.
Okay, well, out there, hello everyone. Thank you for logging into this webinar. We greatly appreciate all your support and endeavors to protect Mother Earth and Oak Flat. Maybe Christine, where would you like us to start? I know like in previous of the letter and the emails that stated that, people might know the history of Oak Flat, or do we need to review?
Yes, I think a bit of the history of Oak Flat would be helpful for people.
Okay, as you guys know, Resolution Copper is a foreign mining company that is owned by Rio Tinto and BHP, these two mining giants that want to destroy a sacred site to the Apache people. Their method of mining is a block cave mine, which they will drill into the ground, blast underneath, and push out the copper ore, and in a matter of time it will subside. All our aquifer and um, environment will be completely destroyed and contaminated. Our water will be depleted, and our religious aspects of what we as Apaches consider holy, where God has touched this earth, and where we are entwined with our religion and a way of life, where our deities reside, will be gone forever. The system that the United States government has continued to do is to deny us our freedom of religion, our First Amendment, as we are considered non-existent. We're people of the past, and yet we're still very much present. We have conduct numerous of ceremonies at Oak Flat. We have utilized the area to maintain our way of life. This is where we are given that connection to God. And with Resolution Copper and the United States government coming in to destroy it forever, that's the essence of what is happening to my people, is that the campaign of a good Indian is a dead Indian didn't work, and then kill the Indian, say the man isn't successful of assimilation and oppression. So now they're trying to finish us off by taking away our spirituality, cutting the roots that connect us and that we use to identify us as Apache people will be gone forever, because if Resolution Copper can retrieve or gets the land swap of Oak Flat, that means that there is irreversible damage, that those corridors that open up to the heavens, to God, to our deities, will be completely gone. And so that's the fight with Oak Flat, is that this foreign mining company coming in to destroy the environment, coming in to cut our religion, our spirituality completely away from us, is such a bigger fight, because if the first people of this nation is being threatened, that means all religion is at stake. And the United States make that very clear. Their interest is not for the people. It is for profit. And so, it's heartbreaking. But I know that with seeing all these people here in the webinar and everybody contacting us and all the support that's coming in, that gives us hope. That gives us hope that the teachings and the prophecies that were given to us of being one drum, one circle, one prayer is coming to fruition. And we really need to continue to unite and stand together, because if Oak Flat, Chi'chil Bildagoteel, is given to this foreign mining company on this so-called American soil, everyone is at risk. From environmental issues to freedom of religion, for First Amendment. And we need to change that world. We need to change the world. And that's the teachings that my father has given me, is that our job is to protect all people, not just the Apache people, but for those yet to be born. And that's the crucial part of this, is making the change for the better of this, for better, for those yet to be born, so they have a chance of survival, so that they have a chance to live in a world that is making the right decisions for them, so that their future generations can continue to exist. And the destruction continue to happen on Mother Earth, then there's no point of survival for anybody, no matter what religion you come from, what race you come from. If you don't believe in religion, that that prophecy of the world coming to the end is here and now. We're heading that direction. So, this fight to protect Oak Flat is so crucial for everyone. So thank you. Thank you for being on here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us and listen to the next steps of where we're going. Remember, the fight isn't over. We're all going to fight to our last breath. Okay,
Thank you.
Dad.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. First of all, I just want to say, yeah, thank you to everyone. I think I see like almost over 100 people, I believe, on the webinar, and I'll try to be as quick as I can. And I just want to thank Vanessa for really bringing together and summarizing the impact that is going to take place. I guess I'm going to jump forward. So where we are with the Apache Stronghold right now is we're probably going to ask for a rehearing of our case with the Supreme Court. So right now our attorneys are working on that. And because they found a lot of deficiencies within the Supreme Court not rendering the kind of decision we thought they were going to make. One, that because the district court and the Ninth Circuit Court took our cases and they rendered some kind of decision, but the Supreme Court didn't. You only had two that said, the case needed to be heard. You had one that excluded himself because he had assets within BHP, and then the others just walked away. So I guess when you walk away, that's considered a no vote. So for us, we didn't lose. They just didn't want to confront the important decision. And I think what we need to remember is that in the Ninth Circuit Court, we had several embunked cases that had joined us, and those were the religious groups and some other like the National Congress of American Indians. So they would have to address why the Strongholds case was not going to be heard, but also why the embankment, those who filed, why they thought it wasn't important. So if you look at it from that perspective, it was an easy way out for them to just not vote at all. And I was told that we'll never know until, they pass away and they have the memoirs why they didn't vote on this case. And so there's some loopholes there that we're working on that we really don't want to talk about yet, but that's looking, as far as the update I'm getting, that's looking really good as of today. But that's one. The second part is that I'll get to the letter to the president at the very end. No, I'll do that now. So we do have a letter that's going to go out tonight, and that letter is requesting to meet with the president. So if you look at what the stronghold had done since the very beginning, is the fact that we went to the legislative body, and that's where you hear of the Save Oak Flat bill. And the Oak Flat bill over time, made its course. It had its hearing, and then now it was going into the House for a decision to be made by Congress and the House. And that's when our Democratic Party here in Arizona really pushed Nancy Pelosi to pull the bill, because they felt like the Democrats would not get elected back in. So it was pulled. So in other words, that bill never got heard about how this all came to be, from Resolution Copper day one with our elected officials wanting an exemption. They never were going to follow the law. So for all those years from 2002 to 2014, around 2009, 10, 11, they began to make the attempts to try to put it on the floor, but they didn't have the support. And when Gosar did put it on the floor, it was pulled because, again, we had 3 more Republicans join and said this is not a good deal for Arizona, because at that time we had the Tonto National Forest supporting and saying to the people in Congress that this is not a good deal, and kind of going after, relaying the information about the possibilities, because Resolution Copper never kicked out the plan of operations. So no one never had an official one, but just from what they were piecemealing, they were able to stand with the tribe and tell Congress that this wasn't a good bill. But so again, when Gosar made his attempt, and 3 congressional leaders, Congress people, Republicans bailed and they joined the stronghold, then Gosar took it off the floor before it was voted on. And then what happened next was John McCain. That's when John McCain comes into the picture and adds it into a late night rider an hour before a must pass bill. And that's when it passed, with a lot of other congressmen never able to see the bill, and how John McCain strong-armed a lot of these congressional leaders about their projects in their state. So there's a lot of rumors to that, and a lot of things that came from there. So the Save Oak Flat bill continued to make its push. Then, like I said, they pulled it. And so for us, even in the legislative body of Congress, Oak Flat never got a fair hearing. It never was heard. It was supposed to be heard, but it was pulled. So then from there, because of the EIS, we have our case and we file our injunction because of the immediate harm before, that was during Trump's first term, when he was leaving, that he was pushing the mining. And so again, that's where you hear that the EIS was pulled back. So it had been pulled back ever since, but we were making our way up to the Supreme Court. So all the court cases were very close. We were only losing by 1. But we had a lot of different federal judges saying the same thing, that this case needs to be heard. So it gets up to the Supreme Court last year, September 11, 12, when we took it. And then now we finally got word from the Supreme Court. Well, first we got word from the United States, with Trump being back, that they're going to push the final EIS. So that caused us to come back to the district court in Arizona, where we had been with Judge Logan, where he had denied us before. But this time, he agreed with us, because now there's immediate harm, because now the EIS is talked about being rolling and going forward. So he did side with us, which excited all of us, because we've already had like 6-5 in the Ninth Circuit Court. We had there were 3 that heard, 2 the first time in the Ninth Circuit Court. It went 2-1, but then the lady changed her position after we went back to the Supreme Court. So we felt really good with what the district court said to the Supreme Court, that you have to take this case, and other things that he said. So we're pretty sure we're going to be heard, but it was a big blow when we heard that they weren't going to take the case. So of course, we worked real hard to find out why, and we find out that these other judges didn't vote. So they either vote nay or yay publicly, or they can also just walk away, and that's considered a no vote. So again, in the judicial, Oak Flats never got heard again, even from our judicial system. It never got heard from the highest court of this country. So the next part, on the side of reappealing in the Supreme Court, we're also going to the executive body, and that's going to President Trump to write him the letter that we got to meet before the land transfer takes place, because the United States is going to make a really bad mistake. Because as you know, he's the boss over the federal agencies and the agencies that are handling this. So where we are at, he can pull it back, just like what Biden did. Or either the Arizona congressional leaders can also put in and pull back the EIS. So there's two avenues. So we're gonna tackle that. The letter's gonna go out tonight, and we're gonna make sure that we get the letter to Washington. And I probably would try to hand carry a copy there. But that's one of the things that I was hoping that the people can begin to work on, as far as initiating to your congressional leaders and having them be advocates to tell the president, you have to meet with the stronghold. You have to meet with them, for due process. So and Congress can make that happen. Congressional leaders can make that happen. It's supposed to work that way. So anyway, we're going to be pushing that and pushing at the White House, so we have a meeting. Now, I know there's a lot of negativity, as far as what people think about Trump, about, he's not going to let it happen. It's not going to happen at all. So for us is that the fact that we will show proof that we went to the three highest branches of the government and it all failed. Because one of the things that we need to all understand as people of this country is that these bodies of government is supposed to provide the best law for the American people, but also the country. And so I was telling my family, I said, we have to walk through these steps and give Trump the opportunity to either say nay or yay. Because if he says nay, again, that's three strikes from our government not listening to the religion and to the environmental impacts, and then the precedents that it's going to set in this country. Now, going back to what Vanessa was saying, when it comes to the religion, one of the things the United States said to us was that the only ones that can claim a spiritual happening between heaven and earth is the Native people, nobody else. And that's that's the argument I had with the United States. I said, for us Native people, we don't believe that. We own nothing. All of this belongs to God. And so wherever he wants to speak or whoever he wants to touch, I said, that's his free will. And I said, so you're telling me that the people of America have no rights to the earth on this side? And that's when the United States got a little smart with me and said, if they want to feel any kind of connection with the earth, they can go back to the other side. And that's when I jumped up and I pointed at the door. I said, does all the American people know that? Do they know that this is the way America looks at their religion, that they have no impact to the land? I said, but yet I think in the Bible, it talks about the land. It talks about our responsibility. And so they had no response, but that's the position they've taken. And that's why I found why we weren't getting a lot of help in the very beginning, because it was new to a lot of people. So I was telling Vanessa, I said, it's kind of like we're shaking this tree to see the real evil surface so that people can see what they're up against. Because as long as we stay status quo, then it's going to always be, and the corporations will totally take over the world. And so where we are right now, it's between good and evil. That's the war. And that's why when people ask me, like some of the workers here with Resolution Copper, I said, I'm not after those guys. I said, I'm after, what happened before the Bible, what happened to the people, what happened to all of us. I said, because going to, meeting people from Africa when I was in Europe, South America, then in Europe itself, I found a lot of indigenous people. It didn't matter what color you were; they were indigenous too, and so it was really, good felt for me, because when I came back to America, I knew then that I had to do more, research with what happened in this country, and just found that a lot of us falls into this colonized way of living. It's a corporate way of living. So when our old people talk about what's happening here in America, what they're referring to is how corporation is destroying everything, and that we're becoming corporate people. We're no longer who we are. And that's kind of what Vanessa was referring to, that our religious ways, our identity of why we're on this earth is so critical, because what we're supposed to be reminded is that we have the understanding of the greatest gift God gave us, and that's Mother Earth. Mother Earth is the greatest gift, the first gift that he gave the world. And so that's what we're trying to save, because without the mother, then nothing else matters or exists. But that's where it triggered me going to the different churches, different denominations, and talking to so many people. And just the curiosity is that, is America right? Do you feel the same? You know, is this true what America is saying? So anyway, that just kind of goes back to what Vanessa was saying. The other thing is what you just mentioned. There's 2 court cases that's going to be heard on June 6th. That's the tribe. So sad to say right now, I think Vanessa's on the radio listening, because the tribal council is having a meeting, and they're actually fighting Resolution Copper supporters right now, because they're trying to bring a resolution forward to the council to try to persuade them to rescind their decision. And I was reminding the chairman on my drive back from Montana that, you know, they're trying to do this before their hearing on June 6th. So Resolution Copper is out everywhere, and they're doing everything they can from our reservation to all these little towns, trying to force them to pass resolutions. So it's sad to say that's going on right now. They're having a huge discussion. And so we'll see what happens by the end of the night, whether the council rescinds or it doesn't. But, you know, we should have 6 people in there that will stand their ground, but we'll see tonight. So I just want to give you an update on that. The other thing is that in talking to the attorneys, another tribe or another native entity can also file an injunction. So right now we have the tribe in Yuma that are meeting about filing an injunction because of the water. So where I sit, where Mount Graham is at, how it flows underneath the earth, right, almost like southeastern Arizona, but it reappears right in Yuma, Arizona, towards California. So when that gets contaminated deep, that deep water is going to flow to Yuma. So we're trying to see if that qualifies them to file a lawsuit, you know, on the exchange, so that it doesn't move, because that's going to be immediate harm. Other than that, that's kind of where we are right now. So again, just kind of repeating, you know, we have the letter going to the White House. We need to, you know, get our congressional leaders involved. Teresa and I will have that letter out probably in about an hour after the Zoom. The attorneys are just kind of fine tooth nailing it, so that we're exact within our lawsuit and stuff. So anyway, that's where we are, and that's kind of the update I wanted to give. But again, thank you so much for all your help, and I'm sure some of you may have different ideas, different avenues that we probably haven't even thought of. But once it sets precedents, it changes the whole country, because we're talking about federal land. We're talking about this decision that's going to be made will affect all Indian tribes and all federal land, and it'll kind of be set in stone until there's another court case that comes up that tackles the same issue. But I really believe all our religion is at stake right now. And if nothing changes, then it is a corporate country. And I've been trying to tell people, like here in Arizona, they're buying all the water pockets. Foreign mining companies are buying all the water pockets. And it's crazy. Not only here, but you see it in different states when I'm going around talking to a lot of different people, and you find mining everywhere began to control those most important water pockets, the deep water pockets, and it's really, really crazy. There's a lot more to it than what people know behind the scenes, and it's just crazy that you have 75% of the copper ore still going to China, but then like you hear Trump arguing about China, but 75% is still going. They haven't changed that. It's still going to China, and yet he's getting us angry. And I'm not saying that I'm for that, but I'm just saying it started with a lie, and it's just been covered up ever since. And if you watch the court hearing that we had in Phoenix with when Resolution Copper joined the court case now with the United States, when they went on the stand, she flopped, and that's what really scared them, because now we can cross-examination, but now they got away with it because now we don't have our court hearing with the Supreme Court. But they would have been caught with, all the illegal things they did prior, because they were already doing things prior. They already were dewatering. They're afraid of how the money, how they have mitigated so many places and bought out so many people. So there's a lot of people that were afraid of this because, they're whoever they're associated with, whether it's an agency or a department or individually, there's been a lot of people bought off on this, and it's just really, really crazy. But like Vanessa said, we're gonna fight to the very end. But I was told them, I said, it may come to one day that, and I pray, we don't get that far. I was praying that, these things will kind of solve itself, but it's not happening. But I said, it's going to really have to come from religious people defending God's greatest gift, because if we don't do that, it's gone. It's going to be tough. While we're in this fight right now about God's greatest gift, this is kind of like the time, but we could actually lose it, as we go forward. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight, and say, and again, say thank you. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas, and I know the Stronghold is open to it, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nosey, and also Vanessa. I noticed a lot of words of support in the chat, just hearts really aligned with both of you, and also people really seeking to know what to do, especially with their congregations. And I know we already have some questions that have come up in our Q&A, and I would just like to ask others to, if you have questions, to put those in the Q&A. Madison Mayhew from Creation Justice Ministries is going to help with this Q&A and help facilitate that and bring forward those questions. So Madison, I'm going to turn it over to you to facilitate this part.
Thanks, Kirsten. And thank you so much, Dr. Nosey and Vanessa, for joining us. Your presence is so meaningful here with all of us today. So really grateful. As you can imagine, we've gotten a lot of questions about how folks can support. And you've mentioned the incoming letters, but wondering what also comes to mind for how, especially communities of faith here gathered, what they can do in their communities back home to support you all in this ongoing fight.
I think one is that's why the letters are so important, that I can get it to you, that you guys can work off that letters that you're going to get. As I said, is when John McCain was still alive, and when he surfaced in 2014, then what happened was congressional leaders told me, they told me, if you can come to my state and have my state people, my constituent, push a concern to me, then it involves me. But as long as it's in Arizona, I'm going to kind of stay away until my people tell me to not stay away. So what I had to remind everybody in the different states is that we're talking about federal land. And everybody in America has a say on federal land, whether you're in Maine, California, Washington. This Oak Flat, you have a say. And that was the point of the congressional leaders when they said to me, that we need to, I need to raise that issue within their state. Then they can argue back with John McCain. And so it was working until up to the time he did the rider. And so I think we're kind of in that same place now where congressional leaders in whatever state can address this issue, because it affects everybody's religion. It affects federal land. And by them giving exemptions to foreign mining companies and without any, looking at the pros and cons, it's going to be detrimental here, but it's the example now they're going to use everywhere. And so what we know is that American companies are getting in line for more exemptions from NEPA because of Resolution Copper. So it's a can of worms that just opened. And it should be a concern for all Americans across the board. And then if you look at the 1, 2, 3, like I said, the legislative and the judicial and the executive, they're failing the country, so you can kind of imagine that if they can do that, they're doing that to a lot of things that should go through the proper protocol, and they're doing away with the protocol. And then again, and I think, congressional people know what exemptions are. And that's really a poor decision to use, because everybody in the state needs to know the pros and cons, because we're going to live with that. And so when they did their dog and pony show, meaning the Forest Service, after the exemption was done, and Vanessa can tell you, because she was part of the gathering of people, in each of the places that we had in Arizona, it was like about 99% were against Resolution Copper, because they were worried about the water. They were worried about what was going to happen, because one of the reports showed that once it subsides, it's 184 degrees is going to rise to the surface, and 50-mile radius is going to be 10 degrees hotter. So after 50-mile radius, it's going to drop to 8, 6, 5, 4, and so forth. So it hits right into Tempe, Arizona, near Tempe, Arizona, that will get 10 degrees hotter. So where we're at, we're like only 11 miles away from this mine that's going to happen. And so that's the danger of when the United States Congress gives exemptions to these important laws and doesn't give the opportunity to the constituents to know what they're running into. So I think those are really vital things that we can do collectively, as quick as we can, so that they can pull. Our request is for them to pull the EIS back. And the tribe has already played their card, because the tribe has said, if anything, we want to see the environmental impact. We don't do no land transfer until we see the negativity of these reports. And then secondly, have an independent, do the report, because it was being funded by Resolution Copper, and it was being funded by their studies by their people, the first one. And so, I mean, those are things that I think, from wherever state we're in is real critical. And then what are we teaching our children? That to me, that's the most important part, because we've been all over the country, speaking at different universities, different churches, different high schools, and all the kids are watching this, and we're getting hits like crazy from kids that are going to be attorneys next year, or are attorneys this year. They were freshmen, sophomores, so we've been talking to a lot of these attorneys, students are going to be attorneys. And so if we don't do anything, they're going to learn, it doesn't matter. You can do anything you want, and you're going into a career that it doesn't matter, and I hate that, because we're showing the kids the wrong way of doing things. So I think, if we look at it from how can we get to the senator, and then also to the president, is to support him, telling him that he must meet with the stronghold because of the environmental impacts and the religion, that's going to take place. But once I send this letter out to you, it kind of has it all detailed in there.
Amazing.
Vanessa, you want to add anything? Well, she's probably listening to the radio. That's a hot discussion going.
No, I agree. I think you covered all the bases of things that people can do, because we have to remember, there's such a heavy discussion that's happening, not just like within our circles, but even with the Forest Service, of mixed feelings from the word that I'm hearing, and we need to capitalize on that. We need to continue to push, because if there's a division within the own Forest Service, then we need to push and show that, that's that support, that they have thousands and thousands of people wanting to protect Oak Flat because of the destruction that is going to happen, not only religiously, but environmentally, and remind them how, um, how China Co is involved, and that China is going to get 75% of this copper. It doesn't benefit the United States at all. And so those, people across different states can use that with their congressional people. So, that I think you really hit it on the spot. I think if we mobilize to show that it's not just here in Arizona, but so many people are concerned and impacted by Resolution Copper and the decision that Trump in the United States is doing to the Apache people, but all people.
And just adding something to that with what Vanessa's saying is, and I probably could say it better because she has to work with the governments. She's kind of caught in the middle. But there's an internal fight going on and between the governments right now, where it's like 50-50, but it's going to be what we do that motivates them to go 60-70% and turn, them turn on their agencies or be upset. So I think that what we have two things going on. Not on back from Montana, we have tribal religious people coming. And we also need a gathering of all religious groups coming to say prayers, because the way we explain it and the way we say it in Apache is that it's like Oak Flat is on death row. The United States is walking Oak Flats to Resolution Copper, and the death is going to take place. And so I was going to say, I don't know if that's an idea that, that I was thinking that we could call a day of gathering at Oak Flats before the 16th, because in talking to Washington Post and New York Times, they're asking me, is anybody coming, and there's a lot of them that want to run a story. So maybe that's something you guys can kick around, that, because I think once you put a press release out there that you're coming for a day, for a day of prayer to save Oak Flats, then it's going to draw the attention even more so, because we finally got on CNN. I hadn't given an interview since the decision, but I finally gave one with CNN. And so it was a short interview, but we were able to talk to the producer, and he was telling me, give me anything you got. If anything happens, we will go there, So I think if we do something on the religious side of things, then we'll have a lot of good coverage. They'll know that this is huge. And as far as, bringing in Native people too to say prayer. And I've been telling people that, I'm the kind of person that I'm not going to put anybody in the front line to get hurt, because I care about everybody. And so we need to see this evil. I said, so many times we're told, but we never see it. I said, but we're going to see this evil from what colonization has done to all of us. I said, so the way, we see it is that, everybody that's non-native has been colonized, and forced to live in this capital world. And so they're doing that to us, to have no feeling. And by just talking to so many people across the country, they feel the same I do. They feel suppressed in the box, and there's so many people hurting everywhere. So anyway, I think that day of prayer will be really important if I could add that to you guys' list.
Thank you. Such amazing guidance and wisdom for our groups. I'm very grateful, which honestly is a great segue to a point that we wanted to share. Some of our friends are organizing and encouraging folks to join in a time of mindfulness and prayer during the hearing on Friday, June 6th at starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We are encouraging folks to join in prayer and join in taking an hour-long walk to walk at 1.8 miles, which is the length of Oak Flat. If you are in the DC area, there is a group of faith leaders joining together around 12:30 to walk the National Mall, which is about the distance of Oak Flat. We would love to have you join us. There are a couple of other action items that I'll put in the chat, but as you were talking, Dr. Nosy, I had so many thoughts swirling around in my head, and one of the things you mentioned that I think is worthwhile to share with folks here is you mentioned the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, and I think something that's parallel that kind of got happened within the shadows is that the Supreme Court recently significantly gutted NEPA, which will impact our ability to maintain environmental justice in similar communities. And I think it's important to have that in our minds as we're continuing these conversations as well. And something else that I think could be helpful for folks to understand context is, I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more about why this case in particular is a case that will impact religious freedom.
Well, I think I think it goes back to the point where how we tie from our religious ways of belief to the Mother Earth, and with what the United States is saying is that the only ones that have any kind of connection to the earth on this side is Native people, but non-Native, they don't. And I think that's a real a critical part to start, because it makes like everything null and void that people, embrace, of Jesus and his walk and his, in his way. So it will totally put religion in a box, in a capitalist way of thinking, and total control of that thinking, and never to let it ever reconnect with the Mother Earth again. And I think, that is what we need to understand of what's happening, because there's so many places that I've been in, I sat with so many people. And like I said, going to Europe and seeing, that non-natives had ties to the earth and still have those practices. If we're going to ever get back to understanding God's greatest gift, then we can't have a bar around it to never ever let it get back to that. And that's how I feel when it comes to, religious justice and liberty, is that, what does that really mean? What does it really mean for other people? Because in how we're doing things today, it's not giving you that freedom. And like in Apache way, it gives you that freedom. It gives you that right, and it gives you the purpose of why you're on this earth. But it just doesn't seem like, on the other side, and now learning the way the United States thinks of it, they're content. They're content. And I think we have to go back and explore, a lot of those avenues. So I'll give you an example real quick. We had a professor, but he was a priest with Wake Forest. So he was a really good friend of ours, and he had been coming down to help. And one of the things that happened was we went into our ceremony. And so people came up to me and said, "Hey, he's crying, like your friend's crying." So I was like, look, I mean, I was busy. So anyway, later I went up to him and he was really emotional. And what he said to me was, Winsler, he says, we talk about freedom of belief. We talk about our religious ways, And he said, for the first time, he goes, I kind of understood it. He said, because when you and your family turn into your ceremony, it's like this whole glass came over you, and I was outside of it. And I was like wondering, why am I outside of it? Then he said, then it hit me the way we were made, to do things. And he said, I really didn't get it, he said, until coming to San Carlos and participating in a ceremony. He said, it woke me up that, God is everywhere. He said, it seems like we have to go back to the point to understand that God is everything that is created by Mother Earth, the way the Native people believe. It seems like we got away from that. But the point is that I like when we went back there first, then it began to make sense as you go forward to start questioning, all of that. Because if we don't understand this here, then it makes it difficult to fight and attack it here. And that's why it's been so important that so many people have come to Oak Flats and participated really with themselves to really feel what is sacred, and then from there capture. And then now, when we talk about religious liberty, what does it mean? What context does it really sit in? So they begin to understand it. And that's what I was telling him. I tell people that you have to learn yourself first. I said, if you don't know, then it gets conflicting, and then people have different opinions. But it's really, I said, it's before the Bible. It's what made the Bible. I said, it's the same thing. I said that we still practice the old way, and we still know, Jesus as far as him coming and what his purpose was. But it wasn't for us, because we're like, how you say, in compliance. And a lot of them were not. And so he had to come to them. And that's kind of like what we see today, what he was fighting, that capitalism. But anyway, I guess for me, I kind of go back to the beginning all the time so that we can understand, what's forward. Vanessa, you want to add anything? Vanessa? Okay.
Sorry, Dad. Yeah, you're right. I'm going back and forth the council meeting. It's getting pretty heavy listening to both sides. And Sandra, bless her heart, she texted me, said, "Yay, I finally get to say something after all these years," because she don't work for the tribe no more. So I apologize. I'm kind of going in and out.
Okay. No, it's all right. And like I said, right now, I hope they hold their ground. I mean, there's been a lot of money kicking out to these, even our leaders. So we, keep them in prayer now, because if they rescind it, then I don't know what's going to happen Friday. So they may not even show up for the court case if the ones that are supporting Resolution Copper wins tonight. So it's gonna be close. Yeah, it's just sad how you got to know the reservation. Like I was telling people that I met so many different religious groups that have come here. You're far different than the ones that are here, because here was to brainwash us, and here was to condemn our religion and us totally, take on the Christian way, but not the way you guys teach it, a whole different way, to really relinquish ourselves. And that's why, when people come here, I kind of take them to the church and they listen to what some of these priests say, and they can't believe it, what they say here. So we're still at war, with way back, the military paid Christian people to come in here to transform us. And it's been like that ever since, so we've been trying to hold ground, and it's just sad that it's still happening right now. So that's why Vanessa's going in and out. So okay, next.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nosy and Vanessa. We're coming to the end of the hour, and I feel like this conversation is just beginning, and there's a lot more that can be shared. But I also want to honor both you and Vanessa, your time and what you might be called into next, which, is very crucial. Well, I also want to just summarize some of the steps that you've talked about. The first one being prayer, starting right now for the council that you're speaking about. Prayer also for the hearings on June 6th, to take a moment of silence at 10 a.m. Pacific time or 1 p.m. Eastern time. Take some time out of your day to pray, and if you can, to organize or take a prayer walk during the time of that hearing or sometime that day on June 6th. So prayer is critical to this, as Dr. Nosy, you have been emphasizing for years. You also talked about this letter to President Trump, and that you'll be sending that out tonight. We'll see that perhaps on your maybe Facebook page or on your website, that we can take that letter and also use that letter, the words in the letter, to put our support behind it, either writing to President Trump or contacting our members of Congress to encourage them to tell Trump that he should be meeting with Apache Stronghold. And that's something also that I think you all who are on the call, that if you need any support with that, you can reach out to any of the sponsoring organizations that have a lot of skills in doing this kind of advocacy and maybe shaping these letters, so we can support that. And we will be sending out our email addresses and also contact with the Apache Stronghold, their website and Facebook page, in an email after this. So I would just say, let's keep our ears tuned up to what it is, what are the actions that are being called for us to do, which could be almost immediate, that we need to be very responsive. And okay, I hope that I've mentioned all the different actions, and I don't know if Vanessa or Dr. Nosy, if there are other ones that I've missed that need to be done, that we're really calling on congregations to do.
No, I think I'll get you the letters tonight, and I think, you know, that they'll really help with more probably ideas and things that we can do. It'll probably start you guys rolling, so I'll get that to
Yes.
you tonight.
Yeah, okay. And I'm remembering the other call that you had to come to a day of prayer at Oak Flat, and that could happen before the 16th of June. And
Yeah.
so that those of you who are able to just keep your ears open for that call and your heart open for that call to come to Oak Flat and join a day of prayer. So we will also, Mennonite Central Committee, Creation Justice Ministries, and perhaps other organizations co-sponsoring this will also try to share that information out as we hear it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and last thing, let me know on your walk, because we may be able to get somebody out there if you're gonna have the walk in DC. So
Yes. So those of you in DC, yeah, we're meeting at 12:30 at the Methodist Building, which is 100 Maryland Avenue Northeast. We'll send this also in an email, and we'll be walking from 1 p.m. onwards for about an hour and a half. So,
okay.
so thank you so much. We do want to just end with a prayer that I spent 2 weeks at Oak Flat recently, and going on daily prayer walks. And this is one of the prayers that it's an anonymous prayer that was found at the Oak Flat campsite. And I just want to read that out because it captures so much of what I also experienced there. Creator God, we pray for the sacred land of Oak Flat, for the ancestor hawks who watch over us, for the holy trees that keep their arms open for us, for the soothing leaves that provide medicine for us, for the glistening waters that preserve fresh life for us, for the canyons that maintain centuries of healing prayers for us, and for Resolution Copper to stop its attack and instead show love and compassion. We pray for the sacred land of Oak Flat. If you are called to do this, those of you on the call, if you can put into the chat one commitment that you are willing to make to protect Oak Flat, you can just type it in the chat, and or a prayer, and we'll just spend the last minute just looking at these different commitments and prayers in the chat. Thank you. Yes, praying, prayer walk, peace walk, more praying, going to the hearings. Yes, if you're in Phoenix, go to the hearings. Yes, we'll email out information as we have it. Contacting lawmakers, supporting the letter to Trump. Sharing about Oak Flat, so important, just to keep talking about it. Who will you talk to? Can you think of a person in your life, or maybe somebody at your church or your pastor you can talk to about Oak Flat? Yes, contacting legislators, calling reps, prayer walks. Thank you. Bringing your congregation alongside you. Yeah. So Dr. Nosy and Vanessa, we are with you. We're in this together. Our hearts are here. We're in solidarity, and I hope that you feel this. We'll be praying, especially tonight, for the council and throughout these next critical weeks. So thank you so much for joining us, both of you, in the midst of so much going on, and yeah, prayers and blessings. Thank you to everyone for joining. We will be sending out the recording and any information that we have. Okay, good night, everyone.